And the film was an absolute bomb. I mean, I probably could have ended my career. I mean, it was just probably one of the worst films ever made. We had a huge love affair. We were very, very in love. We had massive adventures. We were very wild. And then it all fell apart. And when it falls apart, everybody thinks, oh my God, what is it? It must be an affair, polygamy, drug scandal. But then you realize that actually you're free in a way because you think there are so many other templates of what life can look like for a woman. I'm the center of attention so often. I don't need a wedding. I'm quite a coward, really. And I like to play brave people because I like to pretend that I'm not.
Hello and welcome to How to Fail. This is the podcast that believes every single failure can teach you something meaningful in the fullness of time. Before we get on to this conversation, please do remember to like, follow and subscribe so that you never miss a single episode. My guest today is known for her screen and stage portrayals of morally complex characters, the kind who are intelligent, watchful, and often ever so slightly unexpected. In her own life, Rosamund Pike embodies a similar sense of delightful ambiguity. An English Rose who speaks Mandarin, a stage school reject who became an Oxford graduate, an actor whose long-term partner is a mathematician whose sons are called Solo and Atom, and who is creative director for a consciousness-altering meditation app called Luminate. Such eclecticism is a legacy, perhaps, of a bohemian childhood. Pike's parents were classical singers who took her backstage from a young age. At 11, she won a scholarship to a Bristol boarding school. By 16, she was at the National Youth Theatre, where she busked playing the cello to afford the fees. Later, she took a year off from reading English at Oxford University to pursue acting, and on graduation, landed a part as Bond girl Miranda Frost in Die Another Day. From there, her career went stratospheric. Roles followed in 2005's Pride and Prejudice, Jack Reacher, A Private War and Saltburn. She was Oscar-nominated for her star turn in Gone Girl and won a Golden Globe for her leading role in 2020's I Care a Lot. In 2025, she returned to the stage for the first time in 15 years in the National Theatre's Inter Alia. Critics described her performance in the searing legal drama as electric, and the play transfers to London's Wyndham Theatre this month. A self-confessed perfectionist, Pike says from a young age that she was forensically interested in why I believed something and why I didn't, even when I sat in rehearsals with my mother. She says I gave her a note age 7. I told her that she broke character just before she started her aria. Rosamund Pike, welcome to How to Fail.
Oh gosh, thank you very much, Elizabeth. Thank you. Did you see I had to cover my ears when you read it? I studiously never read reviews. I have this superstition that if I hear anything good, I won't be able to repeat it.
Yes.
Or it will disappear. I feel if I'm told something good, I won't be able to do it.
Have you always been someone who didn't read reviews, or is that something you learned on the job?
Well, I haven't read them for probably 25 years. The very first big BBC drama I did was Love in a Cold Climate, the last time it came around. And, it was a big deal. It was Nancy Mitford. It was directed by Tom Hooper. We had this wonderful cast of Celia Imrie and Alan Bates and Sheila Gish and Anthony Andrews. And it was all these sort of legends were surrounding us and the three girls, who was Elizabeth Dermot Walsh, Megan Dodds and myself. And on the Sunday morning of the first episode, I was in Sainsbury's and I thought, you know what, I am going to buy the papers. I am going to... it's my first thing. I'm going to see what people are saying. And I bought, the top one was the Sunday Times, and I opened the Culture, which then, as you know, the late great A.A. Gill was the TV reviewer.
Yes.
And there was the most monstrous caricature of me and Elizabeth and Meghan. And the headline was, "Who Let the Dogs Out?" And I was in the queue, about to reach the checkout, just frozen with my papers and whatever else I was buying. And from that point on, I have never opened a paper. I've never read a review. I And I'm sure that what A.A. Gill wrote about us was very funny, as everything he wrote, and it was probably fair. And it might have been complimentary, but the headline certainly wasn't.
You don't need to take that in.
No, and then I thought, well, if I don't want to read nasty stuff, it's not fair that I get to read good stuff. So therefore, I just don't read anything.
I'm the same, not that I am an Oscar-nominated actress with a global following, but I write books, and I, a few years ago, made the decision not to read any reviews. And I'm quite proud of myself, because it used to feel like picking a scab. If I'd known of the existence of a negative review, I would seek it out and read it, and it would sort of validate every bad thought I ever had about myself.
Yeah.
Now I know of the existence, and I refuse to read them, and it's a way of sort of taking back a bit of power.
It probably is that. So, because you see, I knew this was going to be therapy. It's all about control. My partner reads his eBay feedback. That's where I send him if he's ever in a kind of morose state of mind, because he was once called the nicest man on eBay. So I send him in the direction of his eBay feedback, where he gets a lot of positive affirmation.
That's so sweet. What's he selling on eBay? Just household items?
I don't know. It was a kind of, I think he was a great believer in the principles of eBay. And somebody came to him and offered him a kind of buy it now at a sort of above the, offer. And he said, no, due to the principles of eBay, I'm going to stick to the auction, but I wish you best of luck. And the man ended up getting it, but at a much lower price than he'd offered in the buy it now. And I think, probably learnt something, and also thought, God, this man is really decent.
Oh, well, we're going to come on to your partner, because it pertains to one of your failures.
I don't really talk about it. I don't know why I've offered it up.
I know. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
That's just because I called it therapy, and we're sitting in a pink booth.
We are. It's like a womb of confession.
A womb of failure. Yeah.
I wanted to end on that quote from your mother saying that you gave her a note age 7.
Yes.
I wonder if history records whether she responded to that note. Did she agree with it?
She absolutely did agree with it, yeah. And I think that was one thing about being an only child in a creative family, is that we really spoke very frankly and openly, and took sort of ideas from one another. And it didn't, I think, I think if she hadn't agreed with it, she would have said so. But in that instance, she thought, my God, she's right. Because you do, as a singer, there's a technical, there's technical preparation, obviously, to singing a big aria. And sometimes that can take for a flash away from the character, and then I think when you kind of carry on in the business, and it's the same with what I do, there are some things that require a sort of technical, virtuosic sort of ability, but you have to sort of hide that and still be real, as though you're just living it.
Well, with Inter Alia, it's a play without an interval, which as an audience member, I absolutely love. 1 hour, 40 minutes straight through. As the star of that play, do you prefer an interval, or is it?
Well, I mean, that play really warrants not having one. It mirrors a woman's life. It mirrors the fact that a modern, successful working woman with a family and friends and a relationship to keep up and a child, doesn't get a break. And I think this play has to not have a break, because Jessica Parks, who's a Crown Court judge, she doesn't get a break. And every time she thinks she's in control of the narrative, something else crashes into her world. And that's why so many women watched it the first time around at the National and thought, oh my God, I've just seen myself represented on stage. That is my life. And actually some women came with their teenage sons, and one of my friends said her son turned to her at the end of the play and said, oh, Mum, I think that's you, isn't it? And she was like, yep. He was like, thank you. Which was pretty major.
Have your sons seen it?
No, they were just under the threshold. We put a 14 age limit on it, because, it does deal with sex crimes and sexual assault as themes are in the play. And, I'm a judge sentencing some pretty gory cases, and a lot of it's spoken word, but it's still, we had to pick an age, and 14 was the threshold.
Is it true that David Fincher, when you were starring in Gone Girl, once gave you a note from having filmed the back of your head and said you're not impressed enough from looking at the back of your head?
Oh, gosh. No, I think that might have been Tom Hooper in Love in a Cold Climate.
I know that Fincher did say to you to think about smoothness.
Yes, he always talked about being smooth.
Huh.
he always wanted me to relax and never show anything in my forehead, which is always very hard for me because I won't have Botox, but I move my head a lot. And he never wanted to see a single thing on the forehead.
Before we get onto your failures, I have to talk to you about Luminate.
Luminate? Good. Have you tried it?
It's amazing. Yes.
Have you got a Nova?
Yes.
You have? Oh, great. Great.
It's incredible. And I promise you, I'm not just saying this.
No, I believe you.
I've always struggled with meditation. I've always known that I should do it and never been able to really. And Luminate, for the listeners and viewers, you explain it, Rosamund. You'll do a better job.
It looks like a sleep mask, and Luminate uses the process of sensory entrainment. So we use a pulsing light source, which is now encoded into the mask, and the mask will shade your eyes completely, so you're in a state of darkness, and then the light will begin, and it will pulse sort of around your forehead area, I suppose where your third eye would be, between your eyebrows. And it's an input that your brain is registering, but it doesn't compute like a visual or like words. So the frontal mode network of your brain, which is the kind of busy, what I must do today, the list making, organizing part of your brain, quietens down because it's not an input that part of your brain deals with. And other synapses fire. And it puts you very quickly and easily in touch with your subconscious. And what you see in front of your closed eyes or your mind's eye or your subconscious, whatever you want to see, are patterns, shapes, and colors. Now, I don't know what you see, but I know what I see. Sometimes it's geometric. Sometimes it's just a bathing kind of spiritual sort of I'm flying towards a light. Sometimes it's swirling, more kind of like marbling. Sometimes it's jagged. Recently, I saw sort of sparkles, which I'd never seen before. And it's basically changing, I suppose, your mental state, your worried, anxious mental state into color, shape, and pattern. And to me, it's like a total brain reset. It's like clears the cache, it clears the...
Totally. And you're the creative director, and some of the meditations, you will hear your Rosamund's voice.
Yes.
And you have a very beautiful voice for that purpose. But I just want to thank you for it, because I've used it every day since I got sent it.
Oh, wow.
And exactly in that way, it really revitalizes, refreshes, makes me feel so much more in touch with creativity and calm.
That's such a nice compliment. Thank you.
No easy segue to your failures, but that's where we're going next. Your first failure is your failure to learn Chinese, which will come as a surprise to many, because many of us thought you could speak Mandarin.
Well, yeah, I have a family who speak Chinese. My partner is very interested in China and has been for a long time. I'm fascinated by China. I have 2 children who speak Chinese. A large part of their early childhood, the whole house would be speaking Chinese, and I still can't speak it. And in lockdown, I started to try and have lessons. And then when I came out of lockdown, it got so busy. And now I have all this credit for being an actress who has a high profile and is very interested in China, and I'm credited with being able to speak Chinese, and I can't. And the only thing I can say is something I said on the Graham Norton show, which is a sort of thing they call a chengyu, which is a sort of idiom, a saying. And it's a very good saying. It's sort of like about not wasting your time. And it's sort of, don't bother doing like that. It's like taking your trousers off to fart. Mm-hmm. And I said this, and this clip from the Graham Norton show in lockdown went viral all over China. And I am now known in China as the fart lady. I am the fart lady. People, will come up to my face and say, "Oh, you're the fart lady." But, when I've had all the opportunity to learn this language. It's been going on around me. Netflix has been on in Chinese. Peppa Pig has been on in Chinese. And I still can't bloody speak it.
Can you say anything more than the fart lady idiom?
I mean, yes, I can say a few things. I know a few animals.
Okay.
I know some, you know what they say in Chinese if you're smiling for a photograph, you say 茄子, which is aubergine.
Oh my goodness. Aubergine. That is a great fact.
Aubergine, 茄子. I this year I thought I'm going to actually set my mind to it, because I think it's just embarrassing that I get a lot of credit for being able to do it, and I can't actually do it.
I mean, it is infamously meant to be probably the hardest language to learn.
Well, I said I'm interested in the brain, and it definitely works on a different part of your brain. Because you have these, it's a tonal language, right? So, the word, if you have ma, right, you can have ma, meaning horse. No, probably got it wrong as well. But you can have ma, 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 ma. And those are 4 completely different words. So, woe betide that you get the wrong. There was an NT Live, I think, or a play of something went out in China, not of our play, but it was something like a Greek tragedy, something like Electra, or something, with matricide in, or something really serious. And instead of the word for mother, which is ma, they used the word ma, which is horse. So at the end, instead of my mother, it was my horse, my horse. And I have got these 2 sons who are this bridge into a world that I could never be. I could never experience China as I can now through them. But the fact that I get such a lot of credit for it and I can't actually do it. Have you ever had that where you get a lot of credit for something that you actually sort of think,
I don't think I get the credit in the first place. I used to be able to speak Russian, and I'm very sad that I've lost all facility to do that because I didn't practice when I came back. So now I've got one.
Yeah, so you feel a sort of shame. There's a kind of shame involved, isn't there?
Yes, and I can still say, do you speak Russian? And I can still say the word for monuments, which is one of my favourite words.
What is it?
Dostoprimichatnosti.
Dostoprimichatnosti.
Yeah.
Say it again.
But that's Dostoprimichatnosti.
Primichatnosti. That's the bit.
Da.
What's that? Yeah.
It's either heritage or monuments. Anyway, that can be your next task.
Okay, no, I'm not going to learn Russian, but I'll come back with some. But I mean, there are lovely things in Chinese. It's probably like in Russian, there are meanings. Like a laptop is a diannao, which is an electric brain. And there are words like that in Chinese, which I might have got the tones wrong. So if a Chinese listener, I apologize. It could easily be a totally different word. But for English, it's fine.
When was the first time you can remember being fascinated with language?
Oh, I mean, first it was accents. I was fascinated by accents because I grew up in Earl's Court and there was, just so many accents. It was very Australian at that time. There was, it was much rougher than it is now. There were just so many accents. There was a big homeless problem. So we'd often, in our block of flats, we'd often come out and there'd be people sleeping rough in the corridors. And I just was exposed to so many different sounds. And I loved that. And I always wanted to try and work out, because it felt like character to me. Accent was always character. Well, I heard my parents singing in other languages, of course.
Yes.
There's a lot of operas in Italian, or a lot of song is in French.
Alongside the shame that you have this label that you don't feel you're living up to, is there also a sense that because you're a high achiever, that you feel you're letting yourself down by not being perfect at something that's incredibly difficult?
Oh, well, I'm so far from being perfect. That might come later if I sort of got to a level of sort of mediocrity. At the moment, I'm at a sort of base, at a sort of such a level of null. I don't think I'm letting myself down yet. I suppose if I now try and say, okay, I'm going to commit to having 5 hours of Chinese a week, and then we meet again in a year's time, and all I can still say is "tu ku za fang pi," don't take your trousers off to fart, then I might feel like a failure. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely my hardest critic. I think most women are. I can be so hard on myself for quite small things, and then I can let myself off the hook for something much bigger. It's a weird thing. I don't know if anyone listening relates to that. So, I can, recently I was meeting the Prime Minister in China, which was sort of an unexpected part of my visit there.
Yeah.
And, I've thought really carefully about what I'm going to wear. And I wear this beautiful Huishangzhang suit. A Chinese designer lives in London. I thought this is perfect. And it's a lovely mint green suit. And, I'm there early. I'm on time. Lateness is something I'm not very good at. Or one of my failings, I should say, one of my failures. And I'm there promptly and on time, with enough time to be very relaxed. The Prime Minister is entering the building. And, he's coming up the stairs, he's with his entourage. In a minute, we're going to transfer to the other room. And I'm feeling, I thought, I've done this. I've jet lagged, but I'm here. I'm in my nice suit. And I look down, and on my right thigh is a great big smear of chocolate. And chocolate is one of my weaknesses, right? Chocolate is, I have a sort of, I might almost say an addiction to dark chocolate. Anyway, it's obviously been, it sounds so mucky, doesn't it? It sounds so mucky. And there's this smear of chocolate. I am mortified. I'm like, oh my God, I'm letting Britain down. I'm letting down the entire country. I'm letting the designer down. I'm letting everyone down. And then people were trying to say, no one's going to see it. It's tiny. To me, it was sort of huge and increasing dramatically every second. Trying to wipe it off just makes it worse. So I think, okay, well, I would have maybe I can turn the skirt around. And then I'm going to let the designer down, because it's obviously like she doesn't know where a zip goes. The zip is obviously at the back or the side, not at the front. Anyway.
And the brown stain at the back when it's the lady with the fart lady.
Fart lady having a chocolate smear on her ass is not great. No. But still, it's all for the photograph, isn't it? So when you see those photographs, you can imagine a small smear of brown
that's brilliant.
On my right buttock.
Wait, so you're not good at letting is that a small thing in your...
So no, that would be sort of, I would be quite, I would find that, I found that quite difficult. But then something else, like there was a sort of moment where I was presenting at the BAFTAs with Dominic Cooper, and I was all dressed up, and we were at the BAFTAs, and Dominic and I had tried to sort of rewrite something, which is the absolute, you mustn't, unless you're a comedian, unless you're a professional comedian, don't try and rewrite it. It will sound trite. All the writing is kind of boring, but just do it. Just do the thing that it says. Don't try and be clever. Don't try and be funny unless you are funny, right? We tried to rewrite it. It went very wrong. I was so embarrassed by how badly it had gone wrong that I just tried to get to the end, and I ended up opening the envelope before announcing the nominees. Now, this is on live television. This is quite a major mistake, right? Everybody was mortified for me, totally mortified. Tom Ford was the next presenter, who is the most immaculate gentleman you could possibly meet. There is no one more perfect than Tom Ford. There's never a hair out of place. He does everything with such elegance. He looked at me with so much pity coming off. So much pity, benevolent pity, which is the worst, right? The worst. And I thought, I don't care. Oh. Why don't I care? I don't care. I've embarrassed myself massively. So, and I don't really know to this day. I think there was a huge relief in that this is not something I feel I'm good at. I'm not good at being myself on stage. I'm meant to be another character. This might mean I never have to do this again.
Gosh, that's enlightened. Do you watch back your film and TV work?
Sometimes, yeah. Watch back years later?
Yes.
No.
Okay, no. But at the time, sometimes
I do. Sometimes I somebody will say, oh, I saw Die Another Day, and I think, oh my God, I must have been awful. I'll have a quick look on YouTube and have a look at a scene and think, God, I do that better now. But I can sort of let it go. Sometimes I do that, because I think in my head it's probably much worse than it was. I was just so inexperienced, and it was such massive exposure.
Straight out of university into that.
And also so unworldly compared to girls now, I think.
You turned up to the audition in one of your mother's taffeta gowns.
Yes, I did. I thought it was a beautiful evening dress.
Yes.
And I didn't know that Bond girls wear 3 pieces of string or something that kind of looks more like I should be going down that, the bobsled race at the Winter Olympics, more of a, the people who go on the tray in that sort of sleek lycra onesie. I should have been more like that.
I know that I could get derailed here because there are so many of your roles that I want to ask you about. Jane.
You can always cut it afterwards.
Can I go with Jane in Pride and Prejudice? I thought you did such a phenomenal job there of breathing new life into a character who runs the risk so often of being boring. She's like the boring, perfect
people say
sister.
She's boring. I just think she chooses to see the best in people, and it was a kind of, she's not that she doesn't have Lizzie's opinions. It's just that she finds life more relaxing if she chooses to be optimistic. That's how I saw her.
And there's this beautiful scene directed by Joe Wright, maybe we'll come on to him in a bit, where you and Lizzie, Keira Knightley, are under the bed sheets.
Under the bed sheets. I know it's been copied so many times since then. He always could do intimacy so well. He could capture it on screen, and it was... I remember when we'd filmed that, and him and the DP Roman Osen, they'd seen the rushes the next day, and they were so in love with those rushes. They just said it's just magical. But he was always very, very good at being, and it's what people still talk about, the little looks and glances, the hand squeezes, that he's very good at feeling, at transmitting feelings on screen in cinema.
And the beauty of the mundane, I think, as well, is just so evident in that film.
Yeah.
Jack Reacher, also, you were great. Now, were you pregnant?
Pregnant?
Yes. So there's some quite careful camera angles.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I was, and it's funny because, it was funny because I was increasing in size, obviously, during the filming. And the costume department, I realized one day there was a dress, and I said, "Is this a new dress?" And they said, No, it's not a new dress. I said, "I'm sure it is. It's fitting much better." They said, No, it's the same one. And I looked at the label, and it was still the same size. And then I looked more closely at the label, and I thought, has that been cut and restitched? And they'd cut it out and restitched it with the same size so that I wouldn't feel bad that I'd gone up a size.
Wow.
But that is how, people are so trying to placate a woman's ego because they think the film industry is so much about, I mustn't get bigger. But I was pregnant, right? I mean, you want to be getting bigger.
That's such a revealing anecdote, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay, before we get on to your next failure, Saltburn, I mean, what a joyously hilarious performance. Were you having fun filming it?
Oh, I had the best time. I mean, Emerald Fennell writes the most wonderful dialogue, and it just sort of drips out of her. She's so good at analysing herself, actually. She's so good at analysing, I suppose, the mean, the unsavoury, the sort of the risque parts of herself that most of us try and keep hidden. And she's just says, well, we all think that, really. She sort of says, I mean, I prefer thin people, don't you? I mean, that whatever, it will come out of her. And you don't know whether she means it, whether she's just trying to shock, whether she's trying to provoke. But all of it is valid because she means she writes a character like Elspeth who says, I can't stand ugly people.
Yes. There's a confidence to the irreverence.
Yeah, that's such a good way of putting it.
Oh.
Yes,
it
that's
struck
exactly
me when I watched
it.
I was like, gosh, I would never be brave enough to make that choice because I'm constantly anxiously questioning. And there's something so aspirational about that confident irreverence.
I mean, Elspeth was wonderful. And it was just so fun for me to sort of play up that part of Englishness, the sort of faux, darling, tell me about your mother. God, is she drinking?
Yes.
Oh, and you can just feel the relish of the sort of story later. It was such a specific social commentary, Saltburn, and it was done with such a light touch. And she didn't have to explain it or over-explain it. Everybody got it. Even the way she treats the house with such sort of casual disdain. And you sort of whip past these sort of amazing paintings and she sort of barely gives them a sort of close-up or a sort of, half a frame on the camera. And that's one of the mystifying things about, having been someone who's sort of tried and sort of got it wrong, has moved, has been in some of those circles, when you were at Oxford, I was invited sometimes and I would somehow always be wrong because I'd made too much of an effort or I'd tried or I wasn't I was overdressed or I was always slightly wrong. And there it's sort of, you can be, squalid as you like, but then you'll wear black tie for dinner.
Yes.
And you just, as someone from the outside, you wouldn't sort of know that.
Did you ever feel, or do you ever feel cool?
Cool. I feel cool all the time.
Do you?
Yeah.
I love that answer.
Yeah, I feel cool.
What does cool mean to you?
Well, I think it means that you can go your own way. I think you can go your own way. You don't give too many You can think originally. I think you've got some attitude. Yes, I think I do feel cool.
God, I love that. Because one of your iconic roles is obviously Amy in Gone Girl, and there's this whole passage in Gone Girl, the novel, and translated brilliantly to the movie adaptation about being the cool girl trope. But I love that idea of cool girlness being embracing your authentic eccentricity in a way.
Oh, you mean not what Amy says? You mean
not what Amy says. What you're saying
Amy,
about cool.
No, because Amy is such a sort of, she's grown up under the wing of misogyny, so she's cool in the eyes of a, it's like when you've grown up with a sort of sexist father, you end up just becoming a woman who's there to please a man. Luckily, I did not grow up with a sexist father. I think that's one of the hardest things to overcome, actually, as a woman, is sort of freeing yourself from that sexist perspective of yourself.
Yes.
Actually, I think cool is about being apart, is being okay with being apart, is keeping the sort of, temperature chill when, not having to kind of join in with the latest craze or kind of follow the band and, anticipate a trend, anticipate something, don't just follow it. I think it's funny enough, God, look at all that strong feeling that came out.
It's great.
I think that's my own brand of it, because I think as a kid, I didn't feel cool in the normal sort of trope of it. I was never had the right clothes, but now I don't sort of think that's actually what it is. I don't think that is actually what cool is. But in terms of how a teenager thinks, I was never. No, I mean, I had like buckle over sandals when everyone else had trainers. I mean, it was like mortifying. But now I think that was sort of gave me some character, because, you try going in buckle over start right sandals when everyone's got the latest trainers.
I get it.
Or when everyone's having a tracksuit, and someone's having a bouncy castle party, and, I hear everyone's wearing tracksuits. My mum goes out and buys some banana yellow velour and sews me one, which has such a tight funnel neck, I can barely get it over my head. And as a child, I used to get very, very rosy cheeks. I mean, it was like I was like a sort of little Belisha beacon sticking out of this banana yellow velour, so that is not cool. And then it's so funny because recently a picture surfaced of that party, and actually this bloody tracksuit that caused me so much mortification was really cool. Now you look back and you think, my mum actually made me something really original, but it wasn't right.
That's so beautiful. That idea of that young Rosamund and the picture resurfacing and making peace with it. When I use Luminate, I get a lot of childhood self.
Oh, do
stuff.
you?
Yes.
You see people.
Yes,
that's interesting. I usually just see pattern.
I know. Now I'm jealous.
No.
You're more enlightened. Okay, your second failure.
Yeah.
Talking about the roles that you embodied and were such a success in, but your second failure is your failure to be an action star.
Oh my God,
as you put it.
Yeah, and I mean, it started well with James
Bond. It
did
start well.
There was a promising start.
Yes.
I was picked to be in the biggest action franchise of all time. So then when I was making Pride and Prejudice, and I was having great fun in my cornfields in my bonnet, I get a call to be in an action franchise. They're making a cinema version, a narrative version of the video game Doom. And I think, in my bonnet, in my field of hay bales, yeah, I can do anything. I can jump on this hay bale in my crinoline, so I can certainly go and kill some zombies on Mars. And originally it was with Ray Winston, that project. And then the whole thing was reimagined. And he was the sort of leader of this kind of bunch of Marines going out to this facility in Mars. And I was a scientist out there. And then for whatever reason, Ray Winston didn't end up doing it. And he was replaced by Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. So suddenly I'm in this film with The Rock, and I realize how utterly ill-equipped I am to be an action star. The first day I meet Dwayne Johnson, who couldn't be nicer, but is just a completely different beast from 24-year-old RP, who had a team of like macho guys around him. There were people pepping him up. There was like weights on the set. There was like every time a gun was brought out, it was like there was a kind of, it was like a holy relic, for the kind of for the Doom fans. And there was the sort of whole kind of routine before a take of like, I don't even know what it was. It felt more like a sort of Maori, All Blacks kind of, pre-game sort of warm up something. Yeah. And there was water spray, and I was just out of my comfort zone, out of my league, out of my depth. And the film was an absolute bomb. I mean, I probably could have ended my career. I mean, it was just probably one of the worst films ever made. I mean, it was a catastrophe, I think. I as I say, I don't read the reviews, but you get the sense like you're lucky to have survived that one. But then it wasn't career ending for The Rock.
Or you.
Or me, as it turned out. It was probably after that I started to do my research. Because I didn't know enough about video games. I wasn't the right kind of girl to be in that. I didn't want to be the kind of sex symbol. So it's okay, I guess, to fail at being an action star if to be an action star in those days was to be the kind of absolute bombshell sex symbol. I just wasn't that person. And so as the girl, I think, in a film like that, if the film is a bomb, you do think, shit, it's because I wasn't hot enough. It's because I wasn't hot enough.
Really?
You know, I wasn't, it's not the total, obviously, the failure of the film, but, you know, if loads of guys say that film is shit, your part in it is obviously to sort of, I don't know, play your character, but also kind of look hot. And I don't think I got that or took that seriously or kind of worked out for the gym body that, you know, a better female action star would have done. You know, all those things that nobody helped me. Nobody said, you know, nowadays, I'm sure an actress cast in that would have a personal trainer, would have a sort of, there would be a conversation about sort of, you know, you're playing Lara Croft. This is how she should look.
Would you ever want to be an action hero now if you were offered it?
No, but if I'm going to be one, I want to bloody succeed at it.
Okay. The high achiever. Did your agent, Dallas Smith, who picked you up from the National Youth Theatre, you've described it as one of the probably the best professional relationship of your life. Did he say, Rosamund, you know, this was really bad and I'm not sure what we're going to do to...
No, he's so diplomatic. He would have just said, well, darling, I thought you were fantastic. Shall we open another bottle?
And that's why it's a great professional relationship.
Now he would have the confidence to be more honest, I think. I'll have to ask him. Well, you know, he might say, well, you know, darling, I mean, I always said I'd seen it. In fact, I've never seen it.
You did carry on to have this stellar career, and your final failure but one, but I'm going to keep, because you were generous enough to give me 4 when you only needed to give me 3.
Okay.
I'm so happy you're going to talk about this, Rosamund.
What is it?
My failure to get married, as you put it.
Oh, my failure to get married. Yes, well, it's a big deal for a 28-year-old, isn't it? When you sort of, you know, your sort of template for womanhood, you're doing the right thing. Got a lovely boyfriend, you know, he's asked you to marry him, you're getting engaged, and, you know, there's going to be a wedding, and you know, it's the right age. I remember him even asking me, you know, saying, are you pleased that you're getting married before you're 30? And I thought, oh, I hadn't thought about that. But yes, actually, I think I am. You know, it feels sort of right. It feels romantic. And then the funny thing is, when you don't get married, and people think the absolute worst.
This is the film director Joe Wright.
This is the film director Joe Wright, who we met on Pride and Prejudice. We had a huge love affair. We were very, very in love. We had massive adventures. We were very wild. And then it all fell apart. And when it falls apart, everybody thinks, oh my God, you know, what is it? It must be an affair, polygamy, you know, drug scandal. I mean, I don't even know what people think, but people definitely think the worst. And so they look at you, you get the benevolent pity again, from all angles. And it is devastating. It's utterly devastating, but it's not devastating in any of the ways that people imagine. And people are speculating onto why it happens. And you know, it was far less spectacular than any of the sort of, you know, than a polygamy story would have been, or a secret family, or a, you know, whatever. But, you know, for a while it was just awful because you don't want to have Christmas because the last Christmas was, you know, with this person, and suddenly you don't want to be around people who are being happy, and who are, you know, celebrating with their loved ones, and you know, with people who know them better than anyone. And you know, even to sort of retreat back to your parents feels like a bit of a failure because you should be embarking on your own life and having them round to your place. And, you know, so going back with your tail between your legs is sort of, it feels a bit, well, it feels like a failure, a sort of big adult failure. And also, you know, you really love someone and they don't love you anymore. That's also not great.
Is that what happened?
I think so.
Oh,
yeah.
Rosamund. And you know. How far do you, because I know the invitations have gone out. It must be weird that strangers know this.
Well, I mean, that's a story that's, again, speculation by the press, I'm afraid. That's not true. We'd asked people to save the date. We hadn't had invitations sent out. And we'd had a lovely plan of a wedding in Italy. And but the freedom from that afterwards is that you sort of think, okay, so people have, you haven't achieved the thing. I suppose the template, he was a man who was 8 years older than me. He was successful. He was good looking. He was funny. He was great. And then it doesn't happen. And you think, oh no. But then you realize that actually you're free in a way because you think there are so many other templates of what life can look like for a woman. I mean, there are so many other ways that love can look like, and here I am, I'm not married, but I have a family and I've been with someone for 14, 15 years, happily not married.
Yes.
To want to create in a different way. For me, with the next big relationship, next big love of my life, it was more important to cement that or sort of mark that with starting a family than having a wedding. Because also I thought I'm the center of attention so often. I don't need a wedding. I don't even know if that is what having a wedding is about. I'm actually a great guest and I love weddings. I find them really moving. I always cry. I think making vows to someone is really beautiful. But I get a lot of opportunity in my life to wear beautiful clothes. And so that part of it, which I think for a lot of women is so magical, rightly so. I didn't necessarily need that. But, for any girls out there who are ending a sort of major relationship, I mean, you just cannot, people say all these platitudes like, time is a great healer and it's awful. You just want them all to go away and shut up. But actually, other things come. And then you feel cool because actually you've done it your own way. And you've survived, which is the best part of all, is that you've weathered it and you've survived it and you're still here. That's the thing. That's the thing that all failure actually is. That's the biggest part, is when you say, I'm still here. Exactly. And I've done it and and this is in my past. And you can look at me with pity, with sort of embarrassment for me. And actually, I don't feel any of that anymore. And that's the freedom. That's the freedom. And it doesn't come straight away. It absolutely does not come straight away. And if now I can sit and talk to you about this without a kind of terrible knot in my stomach. And I think until you can do that, you're probably not over it.
That was so brilliant. And it's like you're in my head, because I often say that every failure will teach you something meaningful in the fullness of time. And it can be that sometimes the only thing meaningful it teaches you is that you are strong enough to survive it. But that in and of itself is so unbelievably powerful and liberating. And I went through a divorce in my mid-30s, and similarly, I felt like such a failure, and I felt so much shame and embarrassment and all of that and heartbreak. And then I experienced exactly what you did, that idea of, well, life hasn't gone according to plan, the plan I sort of set myself. But having ripped that up, there's a blank canvas now to decide what I really want and to be in tune with one's own true desires. And so often social conditioning gets in the way of that idea of being married by a certain time, certain age. And I'm so pleased to hear that you are where you are with it.
So am I. And did you think your marriage did you think you married the wrong person, or it just
now
went
I
wrong?
do.
You do think it was the wrong choice? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, by the same token, I don't believe in regret for that hoary old reason that I wouldn't be where I am now, and I wouldn't have learnt the necessary lessons, I don't think, unless I'd done that. And I certainly didn't think he was the wrong person at the time. I know some people have that feeling on their wedding day, and I didn't really.
It's like, I think my partner now is famous for whispering to a bridegroom before he enters the church, "You are the only person who thinks this is a good idea."
What a legend.
So, he's always been a relentless truth teller. Does one ever regret having a big love affair? I don't think you do.
I agree.
Even if it goes to shit and you feel, it is awful. It is awful.
It's heartbreak is horrendous. It is a kind of grief. It is so difficult. It's so difficult. And because that person still exists and they've chosen not to love you, it's just heartrending. I'm not saying this about you specifically. I'm saying one.
It's fine. Yes, of course. Exactly.
Have you seen him since?
Not really. No, not really. I mean, we once found that we were sat next to each other on an aeroplane coming back from Toronto Film Festival, and we got on this airplane, and it was like if it was a movie, right?
Yeah.
If it was a movie, that would have been the sort of, that would be the rom-com ending. Is they sit next to each other on an airplane and they talk all night long on the flight back to London, and then they get back together, right? But actually, we talked all the way, and that was our only conversation since ending, and it was lovely.
What an ending to that story. Okay, I know that we're running out of time, but I want to talk to you about your sons. Because you live in this male household.
Yes, I do live in a male household.
And your sons, are they 13 and 11-ish?
They are, 13 and 11, yeah.
What has being the mother of two boys taught you?
I really think life gives you what you need. I do think, I always imagine myself having a daughter. You could say there's a failure that I haven't had a daughter. There's a sort of, I have a very close relationship with my mother. She had a very close relationship with her mother. There's been this mother-daughter thing that's been handed down, and I don't have that. Mm. And I do sometimes have a pang about that. People say, oh, your sons leave you, your daughters never do. But the people are so full of doom.
Who are you chatting to? Someone from Cranford?
I did do a bit of a voice, didn't I? I love the brothers. I love the relationship of brothers. I think I always wanted brothers myself, but to watch the bond between two brothers and the fights and the sudden, rage that can dissolve into laughter that I completely don't understand. I mean, I have no idea what's going on. They fight each other, they hurt each other, and then they're laughing. I don't know what happens. I don't know why it happens. Only child, he doesn't understand it. But I love it. And I love the fact that it's pushing me to be a sort of adventuress, which I'm quite a coward, really. And I like to play brave people because I like to pretend that I'm not. And I think I'm constantly in battle with my own fear, and I'm always pushing myself because I think I hate the part of myself that is fearful. And I really don't want to be that person. So I'm in a family of kind of adventurers who do extreme sports, and so I try and have a go. You know, they like kite surfing, they like skiing, they like scuba diving, they like their football. I'd never touched a ball with my feet till I'd had sons,
and that will be the episode title.
I barely touched a ball, to be honest, but trying to kick one with your feet. They've taught me so much.
You told me before we started recording that you're very sensitive to smell.
Oh, yeah.
How's that with some adolescent boys?
I'm at the moment we're okay. I'm a big sort of, I put deodorant everywhere. Leave it out. Feel free to use it.
Like a basket.
Basket. You leave. I think when they're older, I'll leave condoms around. I mean, it's sort of I think you have to just make things available. And I said, don't you like it? Like when someone comes into your home, don't you think it's nice to come in and like smell? Like when I'm cooking, isn't it nice to come home from school and smell that? And they say yes. And I said, isn't it, if you go in somewhere and it really smells, like, do you want someone to come into your home and go, oof, God, their house smells bad? I said, I really don't want that. It's one of the things it's my pride. I think my pride can't take it. But it's like, but then all the blame goes to the socks. It's smelly. It's not the socks, it's your feet. It's your
don't blame
feet.
The tools.
Don't blame the things, but get in the shower, wash your feet, and then the socks won't smell.
There you go.
Dry the football boots, leave them out somewhere, stuff them in newspaper. I've got all the tips. I've got so many DIY tips. I'm really good with smells. I've got alcohol spray, baking soda. I know all this stuff. I'm a regular Mrs. Beaton over here.
Your final bonus failure is your failure to cook a rabbit.
Mrs. Beaton, you see.
There we go. It's the seamless link.
Yeah, you see, it's like we could have written it. No, I'm quite ambitious as a cook. As I say, I grew up in quite a small flat, and my mum, we didn't have a kitchen that was the kind of kitchen where more than one person couldn't be in our kitchen where I grew up. So what my mum was doing in the kitchen was always a bit of a mystery because it was too small to have anyone else in there. So she would always sort of want to be alone in there. And she would conjure amazing. She was a lovely cook. And I always wanted to do that because I think I have a sort of need to nourish people. I like to nourish people. And anytime I've ever been to a family home that's got a kitchen that you can sort of sit around a table, I've rather envied it. And so when I grew up and became an adult, I really wanted to be someone who people would think, let's go around to her house because she's a great cook. And, I want to sit there and chew the fat and have long dinners, and and I want to sort of provide. But it means that I can be quite ambitious. And it was in my sort of mid-20s, probably around the Pride and Prejudice time. And we'd been in Italy, and I'd had sort of all this experience of sort of delicious sort of rabbit. And it's something you don't really find in England to eat very much. But anyway, I thought, I'm going to cook a rabbit, and I saw this recipe, and it was all about it falling off the bone and being sort of, cook it for slow. Anyway, by the time my guests arrived, there was no way this thing was falling anywhere near off the bone. It was like gripping onto that bone, and I was distraught. I couldn't stand the failure as I perceived it and the kinder people were, and the more people said it looks delicious, the more I self-flagellated and loathed the fact that I was just a total incompetent failure at the thing I really wanted to be good at.
Yes.
I wanted to be the Earth Mother, and I don't think maybe I am, but I tried. But it's that's what I mean. It's a small event that has catastrophic self-flagellatory consequences because you want it too badly, right? You want the thing, you want it to be perfect. You want everybody to say that meal was the best they ever had because it gave them such a lovely feeling. And then the wine we had, and we talked through till 5 o'clock in the morning, and we had the best time. And of course, we probably did. And so since then, I've tended to sort of try and I'm much more kind of fly by night about my cooking. I'm now much more relaxed. Like I know how to cook. I know how to conjure good flavors. It might be a bit chaotic. It might be a bit late. The dishes might not come together, but I will feed you well, and I will kind of give you a good time. I mean, it's a bit of a sort of trivial thing, in relation to, my marriage ending and my failure to cook a good dinner. But failure is really all about who you want to be and your failure to meet your own standards. I mean, there's public failure, obviously. There's like going bankrupt but there's always a reason, isn't there, why that would happen? And it probably is you trying to be someone you're not. Even the going bankrupt bit, it will be that you've pretended that you were thriving when you weren't, or you wanted to be someone you want to be perceived to be someone who had more money than you do, or it's usually about how you want to be perceived.
And usually you've inherited that story of what success is from someone else or from a society that might not reflect your values. And actually what it says to me, Rosamund Pike, I don't want to eat rabbit. I don't need you to cook anything.
Are you vegetarian?
No, I'm not. I just don't like the idea of rabbit.
Even falling off the bone or otherwise?
Falling off the bone sounds better than the alternative, like gripping onto the bone, I think, as you put it. But the point I wanted to make is that people want to come for dinner with you because of you. Like, you are enough. You are glorious company. You are enough. Take that and put it in your Luminate app. But you are really, I've enjoyed this so much. You're so witty and intelligent and brilliant. And this has been a great conversation. And I think that's the thing. Like, actually, we don't need the rabbit. We just need you.
You are enough. That's it. That's all we need. You are enough. You have always been enough. You will always be enough. Harder to say than to put an eye on it and then try and say it.
I know, yes. No, that sounds horrible and cringe, and I couldn't possibly do that. Yeah. Well, you did it. Listen, thank you so much for coming on How to Fail.
You're welcome. I've enjoyed it. Yes, the therapy womb.
Please do follow How to Fail to get new episodes as they land on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please tell all your friends. This is an Elizabeth Day and Sony Music Entertainment original podcast. Thank you so much for listening.